Hi Alexander, I'm going to give you a quick review of your week number 4 hand. Okay, you've actually chosen a very difficult pose. It might seem otherwise just because it's quite similar across all the fingers, but the problem that I would see trying to execute this is that everything is very planar, meaning all the knuckles are planar, from the metacarpals down to the first phalanges, and then the thumb is actually also kind of abducted back to be planar as well. Okay, so what you're left with is some very subtle transitions of planes that you have to execute. Okay, and the first thing that I see, and again, this is not obvious necessarily, just moving your model around under default lighting, but if you kind of give some harder lighting, you can see where the main problem is in the back of the hands, and that's a concavity sitting behind these knuckles, right? So it just takes a little bit of a dip. And again, this is why subtlety is hard, because even the smallest kind of plane change needs to be looked for and refined, right? So just need to kind of fill this in so that it's not a depression, right? It's because it's all very kind of continuous down the back of the hand. Kind of looking around, the next thing is right in here, and again I'm going to have to hit it with the right light, kind of how the first dorsal interosseous goes, right? I would expect a little bit of a transition here between the actual, so what we have in here is kind of the metacarpal, and then in here is kind of the pocket where the muscle sits. And actually in this particular pose, the muscle is going to be stretched kind of a little bit thin but tensed, and so we're going to see a little edge to this metacarpal. Right, so we're going to see a little transition in plane here. Okay, again, I'm speaking generally for all these things because I don't have your hand in front of me. I'm just kind of going through general construction as I kind of understand it for the hand. And so some of these may not be exactly what you're seeing on your own hand, so just take it with a grain of salt. Okay, next, look for the angle of the tendons coming off the thumb. So we have the long extensor coming this way, then we have short extensor coming this way, and we're going to get a little depression in here. And I'm pretty sure that you have that because everybody pretty much has that. And this guy is actually going way back over here and it's attaching into the ulna. Okay, and then they kind of pass down to the phalanges of the thumb. Okay, so look for those. Also look at this knuckle on the thumb. I think maybe you struggled a little bit with the knuckles because they're a hard shape to actually execute well, but we have quite a sharp edge here. But really, the thumb is going to bulge up in kind of two knuckles, two kind of roundish knuckles that come off the main bone, right? So this is all coming down like this. And then you have kind of this, the last digit, or the distal phalanx, which just slots in between those two knuckles. Okay, and again, really hard shape to get correct, but you just kind of had it a little too sharp on this side. Okay, let's see. I don't think wrinkles on the thumb would go out this far. Again, maybe you have a really wrinkly thumb, but I think they're probably contained to about this level. And then this is kind of the pad of the thumb going out a little bit further. Okay, so just double check that. Look for a little plane change between these masses here, kind of the larger masses of the thumb, and this mass, which is the adductor mass. which comes back here. So there should be a little bit of a plane change, a little separation there. Okay, for your fingers, I think that your fingernails are probably too big. I might be mistaken. You might have huge fingernails, but I think that they're kind of taking up roughly about 2/3 of the distal phalanx. Right, so these probably need to take up about half, really. Right, so it probably ends up being just moving this border down a little bit on each one. That looks a little more natural. And this might be rolling off the side a bit too much. Again, I didn't quite go into doing fingers in the lecture, but we'll get to that before the course is out, or doing fingernails in the lecture, but we'll get to it. Okay, and then on the back, same thing. That kind of was the problem with the thumb, although it's slightly better executed here, is that these kind of have a little bit more unified central bone going down from the knuckles up here, and yours actually end up having a depression between them. So if I put the light like this, you can see that there's a depression going down the center of your bone, but this needs to be kind of a broad convexity. Kind of like so, maybe even a little bit more. Again, it's a lot of subtleties getting this roll off correct for the shape of the fingers. Because they're broadly rectangular, but they have some very subtle transitions along the edges. Okay, and that's kind of the other major problem here, which is again, the lighting will kind of reveal all sorts of kind of plane inconsistencies inside this middle digit. Right, so we'll just kind of have to fill those in and make those consistent, broadly convex and straight down the axis of the finger. Okay, then we can even take off a little bit of the edge because they're still quite rectangular. Probably take a little bit more off. And those, I guess, is a little bit closer. Those are the major things that I'm looking at. There's a little bit of ambiguity in here. I doubt that your finger does that. Maybe there's some minor wrinkles in here, but they look like major wrinkles. So just be careful about how you describe those. And anything else? I think those are the big things for me. Overall, it's a pretty good effort. Again, I think you hit a really hard pose in that it has all these kind of similar kind of planar surfaces that really need quite a bit of attention to execute 100% successfully, right? So really, in those instances, it's all about kind of hitting your lights at different angles. And even you could even do that with your own hand. You know, just take a table lamp or something and light it from harsh angles and see what pops out as far as forms, because that's really the best way to inspect reference hand or any figure. Really, is to just get really strong lighting. Okay, I hope that helps. Thanks for the effort, and I'll see you next week.